Hey YouTube, this is Alex Conley here. I just wanted to make a video sharing about my experiences in Tennessee. I wanted to share why did I leave Tennessee and would I ever return. So I left Tennessee primarily because I was struggling in life. I felt like I was stagnating and just spinning my wheels. I had basically realized my long-term relationship wasn't working out. I realized that I didn't want to go to law school in Tennessee, especially just because I knew that would mean I would be geographically limited to Tennessee forever. Another reason for me, big reason, is allergies. For those who don't know, Nashville is known to be basically a nickname is the Allergy Bowl because of the way the city is situated, for lack of a better term. Basically, allergens collect in the area, and especially when I was eating a more high carbohydrate diet, I would get basically immobilized for a week at a time due to allergy problems and sinus infections. Actually, right before I moved away, I saw a dentist because I felt severe pain right in here, and he said, "I've got the best news for you that I could come up with. It's actually allergy related. You don't have a dental problem." And that was a big sign for me that I needed to check out some other places, if not in the world, at least the United States. Another big reason for me to have left Tennessee is because I kind of got the impression there's a certain amount of professional stagnation in Tennessee compared to larger markets. That's not to say you can't be successful in Tennessee, and actually it's really favorable toward entrepreneurs, but I wasn't 100% sold on whether or not I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And if you're not an entrepreneur in Tennessee, my concern is just that you're going to struggle in certain ways. It doesn't mean people, like I said, doesn't mean people can't be professionally successful, but there are different factors that came into play when I started to think about my long-term future, and an obvious one is that the majority of people live on the west or the east coast, and those tend to have also many of the largest cities, and in my opinion, more opportunity depending on what you're trying to do. Kind of to follow up on that, because my family was not from Tennessee and I essentially, pretty brown, I felt like I was never going to be able to connect into the good old boy system. I had the impression that I would always struggle in different avenues just because I wasn't as well connected as a lot of other people, where their family may be pretty successfully locally, whereas I didn't really know my dad, and my mom passed away a long time ago. So I felt like some of the advantages that people have living in Tennessee or growing up in Tennessee didn't really apply to me. Another big reason is Tennessee politics. So essentially, Tennessee is pretty conservative, and I look at myself, I identify with more so than any other category with centrism. The idea that progressives and conservatives have some good ideas, and oftentimes a solution to a lot of different problems is right down the middle. And so, essentially in Tennessee, almost all decisions tend to be on the right side of the spectrum. So regardless of the issue, the conservatives are going to win. It's a little bit different within the city limits of Nashville, but Nashville's only so big, and if you live in Tennessee, even if you live in Nashville, you're eventually going to have to deal with fairly conservative people. Nothing, I don't have an inherent distaste for conservative people, but I found that some are anti-immigration, whereas I'm a first or second generation American, depending on how you look at it. So I'm actually tend to have more moderate views on immigration. Secondly, marijuana. That's a big issue where I tried to work with Tennessee Normal for several years trying to change the laws, and I felt like our efforts were not really taken seriously because it's considered to be a progressive idea that only more liberal places are willing to be tolerant of. So I felt like the strong conservatism in Tennessee, even though it is somewhat changing as more people from other areas move there. I still think it remains an issue where once you've lived or traveled in other areas, it tends to bug you a little bit more, I think. I think part of the reason why it doesn't bother as many people in Tennessee as it should is just because a lot of people, particularly in more country areas, are not as well traveled and don't have as much interest in the world outside of Tennessee. It's not to call them small-minded. We all have different preferences, and I think that that's what's beautiful about America is that I can live in places like Colorado or California as long as I can work hard enough to afford these places. These are just some reasons I wanted to share about why I'm no longer living in Tennessee. So I guess the next question would be, would I return? I would consider it one day, but it would probably not necessarily be soon just because of my aspirations as far as career goes. There is a software engineering web development scene in Nashville, but it won't ever compare to the Bay Area, basically. The Bay Area is the center for that in the United States and quite possibly the center of it for the entire world, as far as having opportunities for mentorship for people with more experience in the field. Certainly high cost of living is factoring into my decision as to whether I want to stay here in the Bay Area forever. But I think that there's merit toward seeking a location that is focused around your discipline, whatever it may be in life. For example, if you're into agriculture, Tennessee might arguably be a better place than California for agriculture. I know that we've had a lot of problems with drought here in California. That's going to remain an issue for a long time in the future. Other reasons why I think Tennessee is not a bad place to live. I don't want to make people think, these are all reasons why you should just avoid it. One, most important, is cost of living. Tennessee, aside from Nashville, has a generally reasonable cost of living. You're not going to pay as much in Tennessee as you are on the East Coast or the West Coast for rent. Things like rent, groceries, entertainment, etc. I remember in Nashville, regularly I would see concerts for free or like $5, whereas most things I've noticed here in California, they want at least $10 to $20 from you, if not 40 or 50, to go out and enjoy something. There are of course expensive, exclusive or premium events in Nashville that don't follow this rule and charge a lot more. But I felt like even now Nashville has a stronger blue collar vibe than most any city I've been to on the West or East Coast, especially in 2018. This might have been true 50 years ago, places like, or 100 years ago, places like Portland, Oregon, or like, Boston may have had larger manufacturing sectors, but a lot of these jobs nowadays have been exported to other countries because it's cheaper to hire people in those countries. They work for less money and often have a lower quality of life compared to the United States, and so they have greater drive to change their circumstance. I think that sometimes in America we have such a comfortable lifestyle compared to a lot of other people that we can become complacent with some of the problems in our society. Another reason that I like Tennessee is what I mentioned before, the blue-collar scene. I think that there are a lot of everyday people in Tennessee that are relatively down-to-earth and don't feel like they need to be a certain way or a certain somebody to impress you. I think sometimes that we deal with on the coasts this super ambitious type behavior where people are so interested in achievement or success that they're willing to shape themselves in the pursuit of that goal. Whereas in Tennessee, there are a lot of people that are like, I like my life, I like the way things are going, I don't need any more than I have to be happy, whereas I don't get that as that vibe as much on the West Coast. There are drawbacks to living in a career-focused area, to the extent that the Bay Area is career-focused. Another reason that I do like Tennessee and miss it at times is how close it is to so many different destinations. It's usually, it's within 8 hours of Chicago, northern Florida. Atlanta's like 4 hours away. Memphis is like 3 from Nashville. Let's see where else. About 8 hours to New Orleans. About 9 hours to Kansas City. About 4.5 to St. Louis. 3 to Knoxville. Roughly 8 hours to most parts of Ohio. Another 8 hours to Detroit. So you have all these different things within 8 hours, whereas here in San Francisco, if I think of cities within 8 hours, you can't quite make it to Portland, Oregon in 8 hours. So really, Los Angeles, San Diego, and the Reno, Tahoe area, alongside Sacramento, those 4 options are your main choices. And I would somewhat argue that the culture of those places has more in common with the Bay Area than the other East Coast cities I mentioned have in common with Nashville. Like if I go to Chicago, I feel like I'm in a different part of the country, whereas if I go to San Diego, I still have that California vibe. Even though San Diego and San Francisco are very different, you still have that underlying California vibe where you've got the beach culture and you got the surf culture. But anyway, I just wanted to share some of my thoughts on why I left Tennessee and would I return. I wouldn't mind making a follow-up to this video, so if you have any opinions and maybe you love Tennessee and you wouldn't leave it for any reason, or you don't like Tennessee and you're glad you left or you're planning to leave, let me know your opinions in the comments. I want to know what you think. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I was kind of